To get started, over to state politics. On the line is the state MP for Geelong, Christine Couzens. Good morning.
Good morning.
So we now see the 60 Minutes program last night outlining similar allegations about the Victorian Liberal Party to what we saw a few months ago about the Labor Party. Now, granted, with the Labor Party, it was more ministers that were on the program on video, whereas with this, it seemed to centre more around party members and occasionally talking about MPs, Michael Sukar and Kevin Andrews. But what does this say about the two major political parties if both are implicated in things like branch stacking and potentially the misuse of electoral staff?
Yeah, I did see that program last night. I think, there are on occasions unacceptable behaviours from different people in political parties. It should not reflect the genuine members that are in the party. And I think, the Liberal Party need to deal with this as swiftly as what Daniel Andrews did in Victoria.
Should the MPs resign? I mean, it's federal, but should they resign?
Oh, well, I think that's up to Scott Morrison and the Liberal Party to deal with that. Certainly Daniel Andrews acted very swiftly when it came to Victorian ALP, and I think there'll be a community expectation that similar things happen with the Liberal Party.
Are reforms needed, whether it comes to trying to better police issues around branch stacking or even the misuse of electoral staff, making sure that they only do electoral work for taxpayers?
Yeah, and I think, clearly that's what Victorian ALP are doing at the moment. Steve Bracks and Jenny Macklin are doing an inquiry internally and looking at what can be put in place to prevent this from happening again.
It's thought-provoking stuff in terms of the idea that conversations in private can so easily become public nowadays. Like, for example, sitting in this studio, I've heard different people from all sides of politics say things when the microphones are off to me that they probably don't want repeated. Are you now careful, or do you see people being more careful because any time you say something, someone could be recording it on their iPhone or could be recording the phone call?
Oh, look, I don't have anything to hide or worry about. So generally speaking, anybody can tape my conversations. They're not going to hear anything wrong out of that. I think every now and then we all say something that, might be misconstrued, for example. But overall, I think, if you're not doing anything wrong, you haven't got anything to worry about, basically.
Now, there's been some talk about the replacement of Daniel Andrews in the Australian, and a number of people have been mentioned, including Jacinta Allen. I believe the Premier has now come out and said he intends to continue to serve until the next election and beyond. But is there actually talk in the backbench of the Labor Party about who's going to be following up after the Premier?
No, not at all. And in fact, we all want Daniel Andrews to lead us to the next election. I think, he's done an amazing job as Premier since coming to power in 2014. And, there is no talk about a change in leadership. I certainly want Daniel Andrews to lead us through to the next election and beyond, as does, everybody else that I talk to within the Labor caucus. I think, unfortunately, at the moment, there are those that, are attacking the Premier for various reasons. And I think, generally speaking, the people of Victoria are very happy with what our leader is doing at the moment, and have every faith in him as the Premier. So, that it's just a furphy as far as I'm concerned.
These figures from the DHHS today, 116 new cases and 15 deaths. The death count is concerning, but 116 new cases seems to be a positive.
Oh, most definitely. But, we can't be too complacent. The numbers are jumping around a little bit, as we know. Today's figures, they look much better than they have for a very long time. But, we can't be too complacent. We don't want this virus getting out of control. We need to continue to work hard. And, I know in Geelong people have worked very hard to stop the spread of this virus. We were up around the 300 figure. We're now down to under 100. And, I congratulate everyone in Geelong for the work that they're doing to stop this virus from spreading.
Yeah, I saw the Premier actually mentioned in the last couple of days regional Victoria in particular had turned around, which is probably good news because some people, probably even me, were worried that we may even be going into stage 4 type restrictions as those numbers started to climb.
Oh, definitely. I think we're all watching very closely what was going to happen. We're all concerned about going in stage 4, but clearly the numbers are going down. People are doing the right thing, and I want to thank all Geelong region people for doing the right thing.
I saw the Prime Minister say in a post that he made on social media, I think it was his Sri Lankan curry night, but he also mentioned that Victoria has seemed to turn a corner. It's a pretty bold statement to say we've turned the corner. Do you agree with that?
Oh, look, I think to some degree we have, but again, it's that complacency that is an enemy as well as a virus. We don't want people thinking that we're now out of the danger zone and, not wearing masks and not social distancing and not doing the right thing. We need to continue to do that hard and fast, as we have done over the last couple of months to ensure that we get those numbers right down.
And Brett Sutton also claimed he wouldn't have over 300 new cases a day under his watch. Again, a pretty bold statement. I hope he's right. But, it takes a few wrongdoers or people not following the rules, if that's what causes more outbreaks, it's a lot of it is out of control in terms of the government's ability to crack down.
Well, that's right. It's up to every single one of us to do the right thing. It's not something the government can wave a magic wand and say, well, it's over now. This is something we've never experienced before in our lifetime. People are learning along the way, and I think all of us are learning along the way as well. But I think the important thing is that we continue to wear masks, social distancing, doing the right thing to ensure that we do get this under control.
In terms of contact tracing, I saw you did a post on social media talking about the Geelong aspect of it. How's that going? Because there have been some questions about how long it takes, and I'm guessing that's probably because the case numbers were quite high there for a while. It's taking them time to work through all of the cases. But how is it going, and is it more efficient now?
Oh, most definitely. And, I want to congratulate all those people that are on the tracing team. They are doing an absolutely amazing job. Barwon Health stood up and said, we will do this, and they've done a mighty job. So, I think, yes, there might have been some delays in testing results, but they are right on top of that now. And we can see that in terms of the reported cases, the testing, and the numbers coming down in our region.
Mental health, that's a real concern during the lockdown because people can't see friends, they're isolated, they can't get out. How are we combating those concerns? Yeah,
look, I think mental health is a big issue we need to be focused on. People are doing it tough, whether, you're a pensioner living at home on your own or, a young mum with kids. Everybody's doing it tough. Small business, mental health is a key focus here. And, obviously as a government, we've been really concerned about people's mental health and how we deal with that. We've got a Royal Commission into mental health going on as we speak, which started last year. The things that they are identifying is around what services need to be provided and the best way they're provided. We've got a system that's broken. So the interim report from the Royal Commission made a number of recommendations as things needing to be done fairly urgently. Geelong was one of those. So we now see the planning and design of the mental health facility that was committed to earlier this year. That's about to commence, which is fantastic. We did have some mental health services going into schools. We're now running that right across every school in Victoria. That was announced a few weeks ago. We've put funding into Strong Brother, Strong Sister, which is the youth Aboriginal service that is doing an amazing job. And unfortunately, we have seen a number of youth suicides, and some of those were young Aboriginal people. So putting funding into providing culturally safe services for those young people is critical. The HOPE program that's being run at Barwon Health providing intensive support for people, extraordinary stuff going on. That's not to say we don't need to do more, but I think, it's really important that we understand that people are being impacted in lots of ways through the COVID-19 crisis, and mental health is certainly one of them. And, if people are experiencing problems, they should call Lifeline on 13 11 14 or Beyond Blue 1800 224 636. So this is a really important issue that we are keeping a very close eye on.
Yeah, and I think you're right to flag the youth suicide issue, because I know we've had a number here in Geelong specifically, very concerning. And you know that when there's a couple, that the issue does seem to spread. There's copycat effects, etc. It's so important to get it under control.
Yeah, and that's why, it's so important we put those mental health services into our schools. Young people spend a lot of time at school. They have many relationships within the school. So I think, putting those services in, I know when we put doctors in schools in some years ago, the feedback from the principals about that service has been extraordinary. It's under huge demand, and of course we increased services there at some of the schools. But I think mental health in schools is a critical service that we need to be providing, particularly at the moment.
Now, there's an article in today's paper about MPs' offices and the fact that so many of them are now based in Geelong. I see Beverly MacArthur, MP for Western Victoria, has moved on to your strip. She's in Packington Street, although a fair distance down the street from where you are, almost at opposite ends of the street. But why do you think so many MPs are choosing to set up office here in Geelong?
Well, I think, Geelong is the biggest populated area. There is no Liberal presence in Geelong, I suppose, so that would be, I think she clearly says that that's why she's come to Geelong. But, I know certainly Gail Taney, for example, spends a lot of time in the Western region because there are so many members in the Geelong region. But I think, we're all, apart from Gail and Bev MacArthur, we're all representing our own communities and are located in our own communities. So, and
Andy Maddock, of course, is another Western Victoria MP.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I think, it's up to those MPs to get out in their region. And the Western region, of course, goes right through to the South Australia border. So there's a lot of area to cover. I would have thought, she might have been best placed staying where she was, but then, that's up to her. They want a Liberal presence in Geelong. Well, that's what they've got now.
And to finish off with the Geelong Sporting Reserves, I see you've done a post about some upgrades that are happening to that. Tell us about that to finish off with.
Yeah, so, the state government has put forward a sports stimulus package, a way of creating employment, but also providing much needed services and facilities in our sporting clubs. So, there were 7 clubs that the Geelong Council put forward that needed lights. So we were able to fund that and made the announcement last week. So, we had an online meeting with all those clubs and they were all very excited about getting those new facilities. So, I think it's important for people to understand that we are continuing to do what we would normally do and try not to get distracted away from that. So there's lots of funding programs and things going on and stimulus packages that are being rolled out on a regular basis to keep the usual work that we would do as a government, but also dealing with the COVID crisis. So we've been working very closely with key stakeholders in Geelong on a COVID recovery package. So that work is continuing. So, there's a whole lot of work going on to ensure that Geelong comes out of this in the best possible way we can and that we do have a bounce back in recovery.
Well, thanks for being on the program. Talk to you again next month.
Yep, thanks, Mitch.
Thank you very much. Christine Couzens there, the State MP for Geelong. And hopefully when we talk to her next month, Geelong is in an even better position in terms of COVID-19.